Hello everybody, Phantoms Y here, and we are back with some more G-Senjou no Maou. Now, last time, we finished Tsubaki's route, so with that in mind, we're actually going back to the common route before we got onto Tsubaki's path. So a very brief refresher for you guys who are, following the series as it happens here. This is after Hiroaki has been returned. It's after Tsubaki's little bad girl stint. And this is just after she whacked Hiroaki, and, then she ended up crying because Hiroaki still believed in her. And Kyousuke sees all this, and then he makes the decision to either invest in Tsubaki or ditch her while he can. And this is the decision that will put us on Tsubaki's route if we choose to invest in her. But since we want to continue with the other routes, we are going to ditch her while we can. A bit of a cold choice, but, it's the decision we will make. I shouldn't affiliate myself with her anymore. I gave up the idea of making her my assistant. That girl has her own life to live. Now that I've made my decision, I shouldn't hesitate anymore. I can return her diary tomorrow. I turned back and headed for the station. Behind me, in the snow, the two siblings played together joyously. I washed my face before going to sleep. My face reflected misfortune as I looked in the mirror. Tsubaki made a fool out of me with this one. Huh? A guest? But it's already 10 o'clock. I looked at the face behind the speaker and suddenly became annoyed. What are you doing here? Soy sauce? Yeah, right. There's no way you could afford an apartment around here. True, there are a few houses with corporate inscriptions on the nameplates. Just go back where you came from. Hey, don't put your face so close to the camera. You're creating a pretty hilarious picture over here. Christ, I get it already. You have 5 minutes. I buzzed her in, and Usami came in through the entrance with a victorious cheer. I waited patiently for a few moments before the sound of footsteps outside prompted me to undo the chain and deadbolt. 1 second here. Going to adjust the microphone ever so slightly. Alright, there we go. Don't poke your head out of a half-open door. It's creepy. I didn't even hear Usami cross the threshold. She just managed to appear in the living room somehow. Well, spit it out. What's the matter? Hi? I'm asking you about the reason for this sudden visit. If there's something to say, you can just call, Tsubaki? Don't smell the bed. You won't find anything. For her attitude lately? Isn't that wonderful? You guys are friends again. You changed your mind? I knew it. Tsubaki must have been jealous of Usami. I'm not Maou. Just give up then. Don't talk like she's dead. It's not funny.
笑いたくもなりますよ、浅井さんには。
After laughing for a while, Usami sporadically tensed up.
必ず尻尾を掴んでみせますから。
Save that sharp look for him, then. Though I made a light joke, Usami's expression grew even harsher.
今回の誘拐事件ですがね。
What?
よく聞いてください。
Okay.
犯人はどうやってケースの中の株券を回収したのかというお話です。
And in Tsubaki's route, that's one mystery that never went solved. Does it really matter anymore?
ええ、自分もそう思って黙ってたんですが、やはり浅井さんにはお伝えしようと思いまして。
What for?
私はちゃんとお前の策を見破ったぞという宣言をしたいんです。
And why am I the one on the receiving end of it, pray tell? Like I said, save it for Maou.
まあまあ、もうめんどくさいから聞くだけ聞いてやってくださいよ。
Realizing it was meaningless to continue fooling around with her, I shut my mouth for the moment.
まず、魔王はなぜ身代金を株券で要求してきたのか。前もお話ししましたが、一番の目的は持ち運びを楽にするためです。
And he clearly had inside info that the stock was going to crash, and therefore drive Tsubaki's family into despair, or so it seems, at least.
しかしそれだけなら、他の有価証券、例えば小切手でもいいわけです。
I cut in. But when a check is cashed, it leaves a trail, doesn't it?
はい、株券もそうです。発行する会社が株券に投資番号を振りますから、誰がどこで売り買いしたのか、警察が調べればすぐに分かってしまいます。
True. In novels, the kidnapper usually asks for old bills with unsequential serial numbers instead of checks or stocks, in order to decrease the risk. Of course, there are shady merchants in every trade. There are quite a few people one could sell to through a friendly third-party broker. Naturally, the police would have those places marked, and would probably still be able to track you down as a suspect.
前提として、魔王は5000万からの現金を欲していたわけではないと思います。
I've thought about that too. If he only wanted money, he wouldn't have kidnapped Hiroaki.
つまり魔王は椿たちから奪い取った株券を換金するつもりはなかった。これはつまりどういうことでしょう。
She asked me this with a suspicious look. Rather than desiring the money for himself, he wanted Tsubaki's family to lose it.
その可能性は極めて高いです。だからあらかじめ急落することが分かっていた銘柄を指定してきたんだと思います。
You're saying he knew?
そこは浅井さんに教えてもらいましたよね。ちょっとでも株に詳しい人なら誰でも予想できたって。
Yeah. I learned that from Gonzo, though.
魔王は最悪身代金を奪取できなかったとしても、椿の家が窮地に陥るよう。
If your theory is correct, this guy is freakishly cautious. Wouldn't that mean that the moment Tsubaki's family used the money they got from the loan to buy the shares, it was already Mao's victory?
ですが魔王はその後約1日をかけて身代金の受け渡しをめぐる駆け引きを演じて見事に株券を奪うことに成功しています。
Many a game I will play with thee, Usami-aru. Isn't that right? That's where it gets confusing, huh?
魔王にとってはその1日こそがお楽しみの時間だったんだと思い。
Have some fun? I tilted my head in confusion.
魔王は椿の家から大金を奪うという目的のついでに私と遊んでやってくれたんです。
Hey now, you make it sound like this Mao guy was pretty sure of himself. He could have been caught by the police at any time.
ですから身代金を株券にして保険を打ったんでしょうね。余裕のお遊びで本来の目的を逸脱しないように。何か問題があればすぐにでも誘拐を中止して雲隠れするつもりだったんでしょう。
Whatever the case, he's a maniac, which is why I have to ask. It's my turn to ask questions. Why is Mao playing this game with you?
前にも言いましたが、魔王は私を試してきたんだと思います。
But why? That's what I'm asking. Why would he test a strange girl like you?
私が魔王の存在と過去の罪を知る数少ない人間の一人だからです。
Usami's eyes narrowed.
さらに言えば魔王は私のことを憎んでいるのだと思います。
I clicked my tongue. You're not going to tell me the details, are you?
すみませんね。
She stuck her tongue out. Alright, fine. Let's get back to business.
はい。魔王はどうやって身代金を奪ったのか。
Wasn't the theory that I copied the coin locker's key beforehand? I stared at her, and Usami smiled.
違うんですか？
True enough, you asked me to keep an eye on the lockers for a while.
でしょ？その時に複製した鍵でちょっとやっちゃったわけですよ。
There's a surveillance camera in the locker bay, isn't there? You should be able to see me taking the ransom if you watch the tapes.
間抜けですね、アザイさん。
Enough. I can't prove your idea wrong, but you should come up with another theory.
別の？
What would be the most plausible way to snatch the ransom? Usami nodded deeply.
確証はありませんがね。
It's okay. Say it. All of your rudeness may be forgiven after you tell me.
ありがとうございます。
Her smile cut off immediately, and her eyebrows moved up.
事件が終わってから気づいたので、とても歯がゆいのですが、あの日、あの時の犯人の要求には不自然な点がありました。
Usami raised a finger.
犯人は警察の介入をひどく恐れていましたよね。
Yeah. I nodded, remembering what I heard from Tsubaki.
魔王はたかが私とのお遊びで警察と戦うつもりなんてなかったわけです。
I thought as much too. Suddenly, a light bulb turned on in my head, and my eyes went round. Wait, that can't be right.
なぜです？
Oh, was it the car? I don't know. I'm not sure about the details, but Tsubaki was questioned by a passing policeman at one point.
はい、南区の高級住宅街で。
Is that a coincidence? Or... I stopped abruptly. As if someone had grabbed my throat, I couldn't continue my sentence.
その通りです、アザイさん。魔王がケースから身代金を奪ったのはおそらくあの時です。
Oh man. He was one of the cops. Because they weren't actually cops. I get it. Yeah, see, this is how little I remember about the game. I totally didn't remember
警
that.
察の介入を恐れているはずの魔王こそが警察官になりすましていたんです。アクシデントを装い、椿に激怒したふりをし、その後も市内を引っかき回してくれましたが、それも全て陽動です。おかしいと思いませんか？椿は職務質問を振り払って逃げたんですよ。よく騒ぎにならなかったものです。よしんば騒ぎにならなかったとしても、慎重な魔王が椿を許して取引を続けるとは考えにくいです。そう考えるといくつかの疑惑が線を結びます。魔王はなぜアタッシュケースに株券を入れさせたのか。持ち運びに便利なはずの株券をまたわざわざ大きなケースに入れる理由は何だったのか。椿の後を追いながらずっと疑問に思っていました。情けないことに今考えてみればおかしな話なんです。魔王は警察を警戒しているはずなのに、椿にケースなんて似合わないものを持たせ、よく警察が巡察する南区の住宅街を受け渡し場所に選んだんですから。その答えは事件が終わってから分かりました。サイズの大きい黒のアタッシュケースは警察が職務質問の中で中身を確認してきても妥当と思われるものだからです。少なくとも椿の後をつけて動向を探っていた私にはそう思いました。南区のような高級住宅街に新車両が公然と路駐しているんです。巡回中の警官が窓を叩いても無理はありません。私はまんまと椿が運悪く警官に捕まったのだと。あの時警官は2人いました。1人が狼狽する椿に質問を浴びせていましたが、もう1人、おそらく魔王の仲間が車内を探っていました。おそらく椿は警官の背格好も声も覚えていないことでしょう。魔王は椿の心理状態をよく推し量っていたと言えます。かくいう私ももっと注意して警官を見ておくべきだったんです。今となっては聖望を深くかぶっていた程度にしか思い出せませんが、 一人は鼻が高く外国人風だったような気もします。魔王にとっては一番の正念場だったでしょう。その場に本物の警官が出てきてもおかしくはないのですから。そう思ってつい先日あの辺りの交番に迷子になったふりをして行ってみました。どうも巡回には定められた時間があるようですね。ついでに聞いてみたところ、その交番の警官の方が2人一緒に街を巡回したことはここのところないそうです。
Usami's piercing eyes forced a touch of caution into my next statement. I see. So you do at least have some backing to your theory.
ええ。しかし、所詮は当てずっぽです。
Usami frowned again.
捕まえなければ意味がありませんから。
Her eyes grew even more piercing and profound than before.
魔王は椿を、何の関係もない椿を巻き込みました。
A frightening glare, filled with resentment. Resentment!
許されないと思いませんか、浅井さん。
I stood against Usami's attention and provoked her with my own glare in return. Unforgivable, Usami. For some reason, my heart was calm. I unknowingly took on a dignified attitude. It was almost like there was something inside of me accepting her challenge, and at the same time, showing enough confidence to say that she was not a threat. What if, as she claims, I'm Maou? Though I knew for sure that it couldn't be true, a small voice somewhere laughed and said that it wasn't so bad either. Alright, and that is the end of Chapter 1 of G-Senjou no Maou. But given that we just started this episode, it's not even 20 minutes yet according to my clock, we are going to hop right into Chapter 2. So I think that was a real good scene to kind of, get people in the mood for Chapter 2. Next chapter. Peaceful days pass by after Usami's visit to my room. The Miwa family has already left their old home and relocated to an apartment near the building I live in. I guess Tsubaki is busy with housework as we haven't spent much time together lately. Man, I'm getting so tongue-tied. After all, I've been trying to keep my distance from her.
Kyousuke-chan, そろそろ部活しようぜ。
Oh, come on. We don't have anything to talk about.
そうなんだよな。お前邪神だもんな。
Huh?
なんつうの、前はカノンだったじゃん。復讐の相手がいないと部活やる理由もないだろ。
Kanon's been absent for quite a while.
スケートだかなんだか知らねえが、ちょっと生意気なんだよな、あのアマ。
They're wasting no time in kind of establishing that, hey, this chapter is about Kanon. Stop overreacting.
いや、あいつは調子こいてるっての。ほら、CM 出てんじゃん。
She was. Which one are you talking about?
あれだよ、アイスの CM。あと車な。
Yeah, I think I might have seen them.
あいつさ、テレビ受けするっつうか、まあそれなりに可愛いじゃん。手足長えし。
That's why she's so popular. She has an agent, and I think she gets offers pretty often.
でもよ、ほら、実力はどうなんよと言いたいわけだよ。そんな人気取りみたいなことばっかやってんじゃねえよとか思うわけだよ。
I don't know much about Kanon's actual results, but I think at some point there's a correlation between popularity and ability.
だからお前は甘いんだよ。よし、わかった。そこまで言うなら、俺がガツンと言ってやんよ。えいちゃん、おはよう。
Speak of the devil. Kanon appeared out of nowhere and slapped Eiichi's shoulder.
いやー、カノンちゃん、今日も笑顔が眩しいね。
Yo, Kanon. Eiichi was just saying how much he's aching to tell you something.
げっ。何かな？
Eiichi lifted his chin and marched towards Kanon.
カノンちゃん、大会近いんだよね。うん、今年はあと3つあるよ。世界大会だよね。
The other three tournaments pale in comparison to the World Figure Skating Championships.
それがどうしたの？出れるの？出るよ。いや、出るよじゃなくて、次回は枠が1つしかないらしいじゃない？うん。でも出るよ。 前回の世界大会は出られなかったじゃない。あれは危険だよ。そうだよね、腰痛めてたんだもんね。それがどうしたの？次回の世界大会の日本選手の出場枠が1人しかないのはカノンちゃんのせいじゃない？そうなの？なんで？世界大会の出場枠はさ、前回の成績で決まるわけだよね。
Kanon's mouth hung up as she nodded.
もしカノンちゃんが出てれば上位入賞確実だったわけでしょ。そうだね。前回は3人も出て揃いも揃ってズタボロだったけど、それについてどう思う？ああ、それどこかで同じインタビューされたことあるよ。なんとも思ってないよ。他の人がどれだけ負けても私は勝つから。それがおごりなんだよ、カノンちゃん。
Suddenly, as if he were talking about the devil himself, his face became hilariously terrifying.
カノンちゃんは日本のフィギュアスケートの将来を担うとまで言われた超新星なわけでしょ。言われたことあるね。なんでって目立つからじゃないかな。トリプルできるし。そうだよ、ジュニアの時からトリプルアクセルできたでしょ。
Eiichi seems really into this.
君は去年のグランドシリーズも日本大会も制覇したのに、なんで腰とか砕いちゃうかな。テレビとかじゃ言ってないけど、日本大会の公式練習の時にどっかの選手にドーンされたんだよ。嘘！ぶつかるのはよくあることだよ。打ちどころが悪かったんだね。あの時はなんとか優勝したけど、終わってから大変だったね。そんな人事みたいに言わないの。とにかく今の日本のフィギュアはカノンちゃんにかかってるんだからね。スポンサーの人にもよく言われるよ。3つあった枠が一気に1つになったもんだから、フィギュア人気そのものが心配されてるんだって。そんな裏事情はいいんだよ。僕は君に勝ってもらいたいんだよ。
That made Kanon smile brightly.
わかった。ありがとう、エイちゃん。
She took it completely as an encouraging statement. She tapped Eiichi's shoulder, turned back, and laid across her desk as if nothing had happened. Eiichi turned around sporting a cocky attitude, as if he'd pulled one over on her.
どうよ。
Oh, please. You did nothing but cheer her up.
ガツンとへこませてやったぜ。
Despite the arrival of the snowy season on the other side of the window, the warmth of the school remained. Oh yeah, I remember now.
何がすか？
Nothing. I just remembered Kanon's hip injury during last season's World Skating Figure Championships.
どえー。いや、さすがに引くよ、Kyousuke.
Man, Gonzo, Papa was furious. Furiously worried about her, I mean. You remember that, Kanon?
パパいろんな病院連れてってくれたもんね。
And for some reason, he beat me so much that I found myself wondering if I'd be the next one to check in.
残念だったよね。今年もちゃんとチケット取ってるから応援行くね。あ、取れたんだね。栄一くんが頑張ってくれたみたい。電話受付開始から取れるまでコールしたんだもんね。自分の分のチケは
Usami raised her arm nervously.
ないよ。だって宇佐美ちゃんが転入してきた時にはもうチケット買ってたし。
もう売り切れですかね。
当たり前だよ。今年からちょっと落ち込んでるけど、まだまだ女子フィギュアは国民的人気スポーツだから。
そこをなんとか。
当日券は無理かな。
Scalping!
しょうがないな。ちょっとネットオークションで探してみるけど、席によっては5万とか10万とかするよ。
あ、じゃあ当日券で。
Kanon suddenly grabbed my hand and said,
兄さん、これから先の大会は全部来てもらうからね。
Which upcoming tournaments?
3つ全部だよ。
Eh? What were they called again? The NHK Trophy Finals and Japan Championships? All of them are going to be held in Japan, right?
今年はファイナルも日本だよ。兄さんのチケットは特別に用意してるからね。
Huh? Well, I am family. Do they give relatives special treatment?
私の分の特別チケは
ないよ。
勇者待遇じゃないんだ。
Well, I reckon I can go cheer you on at least.
私垂れ幕作ってくからね。
私も手を貸そう。こう見えて裁縫は得意なんだ。
That's right, she even made a costume. What does she have to do to skate at the Worlds? I heard there was only one Japanese skater allowed this year. That's my major concern. Kanon has never skated at Worlds before. You can't gain international fame if you've never done that, after all.
これから先の大会で全部勝てば間違いなく選ばれると思うよ。
That may be true, but
世界への切符はね、今回は全国大会の結果で一発決めするみたいだよ。
no? So, she only has to do well at the Japan Championships and the other two don't matter that much?
一応ファイナルの結果も考えるみたいなことになってるけどね。
こう言うとプレッシャーかもしれないけど、テレビも新聞ももうほとんどカノンちゃんが世界に行くようなことを言ってるよね。
この前のカナダで優勝したからね、期待も大きいんだよ。
Well, worlds don't matter much to me. What I'd really like to see is her winning the Olympics in 2 years.
おバカだね、京介くんは。
Huh?
全くです。
Being called an idiot by Eiichi was already humiliating enough, but Usami adding fuel to the fire really got on my nerves.
世界に出れないとカノンちゃんの場合、再来年のオリンピックにも出られないんだよ。
全くです。
Huh? What are you talking about? The next Olympics is in 2 years. Shouldn't the athletes there be based on next year's results?
そうでしょ。僕もそう思うし、そういう声も多いんだけどね。
全くで。
Will you shut up, Hardy? I pushed Usami aside and listened to what Eiichi was saying.
オリンピック代表選手の選び方は前回のオリンピックが終わった時に決まったんだ。前のオリンピックの時はさ、ポイント制っていうやつでとっても揉めたんだ。だから今回いろいろ悩んだみたいなんだけどね。
Oh? Who was worried?
オールジャパンフィギュアスケート連合。
なんか俗みたいっすね。なんで横文字なんすかね。普通に日本フィギュアスケート連盟でいいじゃないですか。
ダメなの、そういうの出したら怒られるの。
あ、
何の話だっけ？
You were about to tell me what she has to do to be selected for the Olympics in 2 years.
あ、そうだ。もちろん京介くんの言うように来年の今頃の成績が重要視されるんだけどね。
Harsh requirements? Aichi's facial expression was teasing my ignorance as if he had anticipated my question.
世界大会の出場経験が必要なの。
Oh, really? Let me get this straight. If Kanon misses this year's tournament, she can't take part in the Olympics, even if she gets full Karl marks next year. Excuse me, next year?
マックスハートで。
いちいち若干滑りたがるよ。
I don't even get it. Oh, shut up. Won't competition be tight? There can only be one Japanese skater this year, right?
ひどいことにね。
So even if there are other outstanding contestants, they automatically lose their qualification for the Olympics just because they never competed internationally?
もちろん過去2期以内の世界大会出場経験だけどね。日本は去年も一昨年も出場枠3つ持ってた強豪だったからさ。まさか今季がこんなことになるなんて思ってなかったんじゃないかな。
口挟んでごめんね。その規定って取り消しになるかもしれないんだよね。
Yeah, with Japan suddenly getting weaker, they're probably in a panic. Eiichi nodded in triumph, as if all was as he'd foreseen.
カノンちゃんにしたって前回は棄権したわけだからね。出場資格はあったんだからまず大丈夫だろうね。
Well, that's how it works. You can call it a sport or an art form, but popular businesses are like that. Any TV station, any sponsor would praise a girl capable of bringing them the numbers they need. Kanon is that girl.
何にしてもカノンが全国大会で優勝すれば文句ないわけですよね。
そういうことだね。
Kanon revealed a smile as bright as the winter sun and raised her arms energetically. Thoughtful Usami face. Chapter 3. I thought it was Chapter 2, but we're in Chapter 3. You seem to have something on your mind. It's been quite a while since the last time I was summoned, but as always, Somiya's forehead is riddled with deep wrinkles of worry. I can see that. A pleased look appeared in Somiya's eyes. Yes, of course. She's my sister. Somiya smirked coldly. Not at all. She's actually quite a handful, you see. In fact, I was just thinking how nice it would be to teach her a little lesson. To let her know her limitations. Somiya spoke with sparkling eyes and a stiffened face. Give me the details. Somiya sighed and looked into my eyes. I only remember her taking part in the last World Championships. Sadly, I have negligible knowledge when it comes to the art. Somiya condemned it as worthless, and still, I didn't feel any particular way about it. I see. So Seta is a gladiator you personally raised. I like the way you can see people as commodities. Yes. But she couldn't even scratch his eye Kanon's fame. How's her technique? Selling points? Did she succeed? Kanon does sound like an attention grabber on the ice. I gave a wry smile while shaking my head. So, what are you telling me to do? Somiya's face twisted as he spoke in a pleading tone. If you want it done illegally, don't you already have people in your employ to take care of that? There was an uneasiness in my heart. My previous kidnapping was a success for the most part. However, it was not without some element of danger. If Tsubaki's loyalty had ever wavered, the police would have surely gotten involved, and Usami nearly caught my arm along Central Boulevard. It would probably be best to stop these games from here on out, but they really got my pulse pounding. If the Yakuza has her back, then we're absolved from police intervention, no? There was much hope in Somiya's voice. I gazed at Somiya and repeated his words in my mind. The price will be high. My headache is getting more intense lately. The doctor can do nothing about it. It's a chronic disease I've had for many years now. As Somiya acted thankfully, I made a deliberate smile. Be at ease. I'll take the job. It seems he was worried I was going to use my illness as an excuse to refuse.
いいのかね?
But he regained his cunning smile right away.
カノンは君の家族なのだろう?
He stated it like he was joking. Being family doesn't preclude one from being a human vermin. Perhaps the emotion on my face was too cold-blooded, as Somiya just kept his eyes wide open, and his mouth shut tightly. I'm a hopeless man, one whose pain can only be eased by concocting plans to trap others.
救われんね。まるで他人の正気でも吸って生きているようなものじゃないか。
So it is. I nodded, and the two of us laughed darkly. My head doesn't hurt anymore. That night, I slept far more soundly than usual, as if I were a seed calmly waiting the inevitable spring. Chapter 3. In the evening, the red and black horizon was diced into pieces by the square and triangle shapes of the rooftops.
兄さん、今日どうして学校サボったの?
And what are you doing out here yourself? At my return from the Yazai Corporation's Central Boulevard office, I suddenly met Kanon in front of my apartment building. What about practice? Isn't there a big tournament coming up?
今から行くよ。兄さんと一緒にね。
What? I have to go too?
たまには見ててよ。
Oh, but how could I ever disturb your practice?
いいから。
Don't grab my arm.
いいからいいから。
Hey, don't hug me like that.
ロシアの挨拶だよ。
You're loud and the neighbors can see us.
まったく、兄さんは日陰っ子だな。
I'm just not an attention whore like you.
ほえー。
Don't what? Me? If you get shot by the paparazzi at a place like this, there will be hell to pay.
そうかな。今まで一度もプライベートな写真撮られたことないよ。
Yes, you did.
ないよ。
Now that I think about it, Gonzo took some people and beat up the editors before it printed. The matter was settled cleanly. No, you're right. Never mind.
変な兄さん、ほら行くよ。来ないともっとくっついちゃうぞ。
Alright. Fine, I'll go. I managed to nod.
あ、言い忘れてた。パパリンも来るって。
Oh, seriously?
なんか兄さんにお話あるって言ってたよ。
Idiot! Why didn't you say so in the first place? We walked to the arena together.
じゃあね、休憩時間になったら一緒にご飯しようね。
Sure. Kanon walked away lightly, showing off her pair of long legs. I found the spectators' entrance and walked into the giant structure. And at that moment...
チュワス。
What the fuck, man? That
今
line.
日も冷えますね。
Then wear a coat, for God's sake. Now would you stop popping up so casually?
バイトはお休みですから。
That's great. Now why don't you run off somewhere and play?
ちなみに浅井さんは今日の学園はなぜにブッチされたんですか?
Are you even trying to have a conversation with me?
ああ、お仕事ですか。そうですか。怒りました?
I sighed heavily and exaggeratedly clicked my tongue.
実はなぜ自分もここにいるのかわからないのです。
Amnesia?
いえいえ。しかし記憶喪失の少女ってどうして美人で色白でいつも病院のベッドにいるような善人ばっかりなんですかね?
Kind, beautiful girls obviously get more of a reaction from the audience when they die. It makes the story more dramatic, more of a tearjerker. But more importantly, you should hurry up and go somewhere else.
そういうわけにもいきませんでね。さあ、行きましょうか。
Usami turned her back to me and walked into the facility. Hey! At times like this, right before a big event, normal spectators shouldn't be able to enter. There were many skaters already practicing on the ice. Quite a few of them were decked out in their competition outfits, so the rink looked like it had been scattered with flowers.
うわ、広いっすね。
Usami got inside successfully.
爆弾でも仕掛けられたらどうするんですかね。
How did you get in?
いや、別に受付で事情を話しただけです。
Excuse me, what things? As I was questioning her, a sound boomed over us from the seats above.
俺が呼んだ。
Okay. Turning my head, I saw the familiar sight of a certain thug. He was accompanied by one of the family, a bodyguard whose name I think was Ijima.
お前が宇佐美遥か。
Oh man, even she's like, whoa. I don't know why, but Usami's face was as expressionless as a blank mask. She gave a single slow nod. Father, just... what is... why? Why would Gonzo call Usami out here?
つい先ほど俺の家に一通の封書が届いた。
Gonzo's piercing stare was directed at Usami.
内容はざっとこうだ。浅井カノンが日本代表に選ばれた。
Oops. If and when Uzai Kanon is chosen to represent Japan, I will kill Kanon's mother. Okay, yeah. I accidentally pushed enter there. For an instant, I couldn't breathe. Is that a threat? Gonzo didn't answer my question. But don't you get letters like that frequently? Because Kanon is so popular, both fan letters and such anonymous messages get sent by people with mental problems. They're so common as to be expected these days.
黙る京介。
A glare from him made me feel as if my body had been cramped up. Gonzo only brings this kind of attitude down on me when I made a mistake. My gears immediately began to turn. Sorry. It was sent to your residence. If you think about it, that part is suspicious. Why wasn't he addressed to her father's home instead of an organization officially associated with Kanon? And why was Usami called here?
差出人は魔王だ。わかるな、宇佐美。
So now Mao's even threatening Gonzo, albeit indirectly. Usami didn't say a word. She just nodded silently.
魔王について知っていることを話す。どうした？京介が言うには、お前と魔王はただならぬ因縁があるそうだ。
She kept her silence. Still, with that face utterly devoid of emotion, she stared back at Gonzo's glare without blinking.
おい、口が聞けねえのか？
The thug standing beside Gonzo took a step forward. Gonzo stopped him with his hand.
魔王を追っているのだ。動け。尻尾を掴んだら俺に言え。いいな。
Throwing behind that sentence, Gonzo turned around and left. The bodyguard also left, following him. Hey, Usami? When Gonzo left, the arena became alive again. The sound of the coach's yells and the sound of blades cutting into the ice finally managed to reach my ears. Christ, just what is going on? Not only has Gonzo's existence been exposed to Usami, but Maou is at it again? And this time, it's a threat to Kanon. What the hell is this man's goal? Usami, why are you just standing there staring vacantly? Hey, come on now. Tell me a little about what you're thinking. She gave a quick, quiet moan. What? And following that, she screamed. Uh-huh. I was shocked stiff. What? What? Would you calm down? Her rounded eyes emphasized her own stupefaction. Didn't you hear me call him father? She kept repeating a motion of cutting her thumb against her cheek. For the last time, that was my father. Yeah. That's true. Could it be that the reason she didn't speak was because she was scared?
あの人絶対人殺したことありますよ。
So you're scared after all?
心外な。勇者とは勇気ある者のことです。相手が物本の親分でもビビったりしません。
Feeling a headache coming on, I spoke to Usami. Look, did you hear everything through that stupor of fear?
ま
Well, what do you think?
あですから記憶喪失の少女は美人に限るなと。
Sounds like you got a case of it yourself.
え
Maou! Maou is on the move again.
それは全く笑い事ではありませんね。さあ詳しく話してください。
Oh man. Is this girl really alright? Oh, Sami. We continued our conversation while the skaters practiced with devotion in the corners of our eyes.
いえね、今日の学園帰りにいきなり先生から言われましてね。浅井さんのお父さんが呼んでるって。ミステリーでしょ。
Gonzo tends to be sudden.
ゴンゾーさんと言うんですか。ますますパパリンから遠ざかっていきますね。
Papa, don't tell anyone.
言えませんよ。喋ったら東京湾に沈められてしまいますからね。
I'm pretty sure no one does that concrete shoes thing anymore. And about Maou?
ええ、現時点では何もわかりません。
She said it, straight to the point.
ゴンゾーさんの自宅の所在を知っている人物こそが魔王です。
That's too broad. Even if we ignore people in the organization, anyone who's ever contacted him would come under suspicion.
ええ、ですから私は魔王じゃありませんね。
We all knew that you weren't.
さらに言えば、ゴンゾーさんとカノンの関係を知っていて、なおかつカノンが敗退すると得をする人物です。
That means that I'm not Maou.
そうなんすか？
Seeing as how you've already heard so much, I'll tell you. Kanon's organization is funded by a company I'm affiliated with.
それが浅井工業ですか？いわゆるフロント企業というやつだったんですね。ヤクザが資金洗浄や法律の目を逃れるためによく設立するという。
How very textbook. Well, actually, the one dishing out the money isn't the Azai Corporation, but another company Gonzo owns. But that's neither here nor there. You understand that I'm not Maou now, right?
そうですね。カノンが負けたら何かと損するのでしょうね。
Not to mention the implied humiliation.
妹を脅迫してなおかつ自分の母親を殺そうだなんて鬼畜にも程がありますよね。
Yeah. There seems to be a misunderstanding. Well, about Mother.
なるほど。浅井さんの実のお母さんではないんですね。
How did you know?
いえ、先ほどのお話ではゴンゾーさんはこう言われたのでしょ。
I nodded, urging her to go on.
カノンの母親を殺すということですが、もしこれが魔王の脅迫文そのものだったと
As
しましょう。
opposed to your wife,
す
you
る
know.
と少し表現が怪しいです。
I see.
脅迫状がゴンゾーさんに当てられているのならば、文面はお前の妻を殺すとなりそうなものです。ここで例えばお前の妻では文意が通らなかったとしましょう。するとカノンの母親はゴンゾーさんの妻ではないということになります。母親だけど妻じゃない。これはいかに？
Alright, alright. I'll tell you. She was his lover once, a long time ago.
カノンは連れ子というわけですか。
She was born during their relationship, but they were never married. By the way, I'm an adopted son.
ぶっちゃけ似てませんもんね、あなたとゴンゾーさんは。
But Kanon and Gonzo are related by blood.
その辺はギャルは可愛くなきゃみたいな恣意的な大人の力が働いているわけでして私には何とも。
That's right, the character designer deemed it. That's enough. Returning to my last point, I reminded her once again. Look, you can't tell a soul. Kanon doesn't know that she's a concubine's child.
分かってますって。東京湾が血の海になりますからね。
She shook, pretending to be scared.
で、そのお母さんは今何を？
Her name's Ikiko-san, and I'm not very good at dealing with her.
あら？カノンですね。
Suddenly, Usami waved to something behind me.
おーい兄さん。
Because she was waving, I also held up my hand for a bit.
あれウサミンも一緒なの？
うん。 私もペンギンの端くれだからな。氷が恋しくなったんだ。
While telling the joke, Usami's gaze turned to the person standing beside Kanon.
どうも、こんにちは。
A calm smile.
久しぶりね、京介くん。元気だった？
Fine. I see you're still doing well. She lowered her head clumsily. How's Kanon's condition? After I asked, there was an incomprehensible pause. She finally turned to Kanon.
だって、どう、カノンちゃん？
どうして私に聞くのかな。コーチから見て私はどうなのってことだと思うよ。
あら？
Again, there was a pause long enough to take a big breath in and out.
そうなの？ごめんなさいね。
Her eyes wandered to the corner of her vision as she smiled. She seemed troubled.
私は絶好調だよ、兄さん。
Unexpectedly, Kanon salvaged the conversation.
そうね、カノンちゃん。だから好調よねって。だって京介くん。
Yes. It's hard for me to get used to Ikiko-san's rhythm.
そんなことより夕飯の話しませんか？
And the conversation was scattered again by this girl's trademarked absurdity.
お腹すいた。テラスでご飯食べよう。
カノンちゃん、7時からまたジャンプの練習ね。
また曲流してほしいよ。
そう？
She zoned out for a moment, then pulled herself back together a moment later.
ヒルトン先生がそう言ってたから。
そうなんだ。じゃあやるよ。
お願いね。
だから分かったよ。
Kanon was driven to an expression of exhaustion.
じゃあね、京介くん。カノンも寂しがってるから、たまにはうちに顔出してね。
I know. I'm sorry. I've just been really busy recently, so I haven't had a chance to.
そんな堅苦しくなることないのよ。私はあなたのお母さんじゃありませんけどね。
What an awkward comment. Of course you aren't. The words that were prying out of my mouth were swallowed back at the last moment.
では、ごきげんよう。
That woman and I are on separate planets or something. I have no idea how to deal with her. Just now, for instance, she put her foot straight into her mouth and then didn't even have the decency to realize it. Yeah, she sure did.
ご飯ごちそうして。
Sure.
あれれ、本当にゴチなの？珍しいな。
いやいや、すみませんね、矢沢さん。
I suppose it's what I get for answering while zoned out, but Usami somehow ended up standing in front of me, waving her arms around like a sea animal? It's a loan for you. By the time the three of us had finished eating, night had consumed everything around us.
カノンは夜遅くまで練習ですか。大変ですね。
I think strength training and running starts at 9.
はは、氷の上だけじゃなくて、地面の上でも頑張らなきゃいけないわけですね。
There's some hard work lurking behind that casual exterior of hers.
そんなカノンを陥れようだなんて、全く魔王は最低の人間ですね。
Yeah. As Usami walked beside me, I could only just glimpse her eyes through her hair.
なんとしても捕まえたいものですね。
You mean you're going to stick your nose into things again?
今回は警察も頼れないでしょ。
No, we probably can't. Mao's letter was sent to Gonzo's home. Gonzo has undoubtedly taken it as a challenge. He probably wants to personally make an example out of him, to show him what happens when one crosses his eye Gonzo.
何よりゴンゾーさんに動けと言われた以上、何にもしなかったら東京湾ですからね。
Nah, I don't think Gonzo is expecting anything in particular.
それは分かっていますよ。現時点で魔王へのつながりがありそうな私をとりあえず泳がせてみたいんでしょ。
Yeah, that sounds about right.
警察を頼らせないあたり、椿の時と同じニュアンスを感じます。
Usami's face stiffened.
魔王はまた私と遊ぶ気ではないかと。
Only he won't be getting off that easy this time.
ええ、自分も雪辱を晴らします。
No, forget about you. Mao just made every last man under Gonzo's command his enemy. And that's way more impressive than the police.
よほど自信があるんでしょうね。
And you're not?
さあ、
She tilted her head and played with her long bangs.
ひとまず明日もう一度ゴンゾーさんにお会いしたいですね。
Why?
封書が届いた時の状況なんかを詳しくお聞きしたいので。
Try not to be scared into submission again.
体勢はついていると思いますが、浅井さんも同行してくださいね。自分一人だと蛇に睨まれたカエルになってしまいますから。
Alright, I will. See you later. After saying goodbye to Usami, I left the arena. Hey, why are you still following me?
ですから家が近くなもので。
You're kidding. I couldn't help but scream in the calm residential area. Where do you live?
ですからここをまっすぐ行くと細かい路地がありますよね。
Yeah,
その先を抜けるとコンビニがありますよね。
there is.
まあコンビニは置いといて、
Then what the hell are you talking about?
路地に入る前に信号がありますから、そこをひとまず右往左往。
Forget the here and there. You just don't want to tell me where it is, do you?
それなりに人間らしい生活はしていますんで。
She bowed gently, her hair swaying like reeds in the riverbed. I keep getting the feeling that you're following me.
ええ、自分は浅井さんのそばにいたいと常々思っておりますから。
That's nauseating.
明日は学園に出られますか？
Yeah.
しかし浅井さんがよくサボられるのはゴンゾーさんのお仕事を手伝っているからなんですね。そりゃ学園なんて言ってられませんね。
Don't tell anyone.
もちろん言いませんが、浅井さんは本当に目立ちたがらないですね。
Oh, shut up. We talked while walking, and I ended up in front of my apartment before I knew it.
今度またお邪魔させていただきますね。
There's no need.
いえいえ、次は私の特技を披露しに伺いますから。
What skill?
座禅です。
Do you think watching you meditate would be particularly entertaining to me?
跳ねますから自分。
Please God, no. That's disgusting.
浅井さんは大のクラシック好きと聞いてますから、きっと満足されると思いますよ。
Good for you. Now get the hell out.
はい、おやすみなさい。
I ignored her and walked in the door. My head churns when I speak with Usami. It's probably for the best if I don't take her seriously. After washing up, I let myself sink into the bed. As I heaved a sigh and tried to collect my thoughts about today's happenings, the sound that warns me of guests rang once more. Usami again? I yelled into the speaker. You're pretty fucking persistent, you know that? Tsubaki was quivering on the intercom screen. Oh, sorry, Tsubaki.
ごめんね。忙しかった？
Not really. What happened?
ちょっとしたご挨拶だよ。
Hello? Then it hit me. Did you finish moving?
おかげさまでね。
Her honest eyes were too much for me. I couldn't help but turn away. I see. Anyway, come on up. I pressed the door button to let her in.
お邪魔します。
She was holding out a wrapped square package. You didn't have to do this.
京介くんのおかげで引っ越しもスムーズに終わったから。あそこってこの辺にしては奇跡みたいに安いんだね。
Yeah, it was.
今度遊びに来てね。
Sure. I nodded ambiguously. For some reason, I had the feeling that I would never visit her house. The man who had chased them from their home was none other than me. I wasn't so weak as to feel shame, but I wasn't exactly thick-skinned enough to act all buddy-buddy after the fact either. Tsubaki is a stranger. Just another woman without money.
お仕事どうかな？
You don't have to help anymore. Thank you for the gift. I spoke coldly.
それじゃあおやすみ。
Tsubaki seemed to have sensed that my voice was somehow different at the moment. Hey, Tsubaki. Before she reached the door, I called out to her. I stood there speechless for a moment. If you ever get bothered by financial problems, come and talk to me. Meaningless words. Words that could neither comfort another nor satisfy myself.
ありがとう、浅井君。
I could only stare vacantly at her receding silhouette. I'm getting dizzy again. A nauseating storm is brewing in my head. I don't know why, but my headache is attacking me with its usual ferocity, as if following some predefined pattern. When I feel pity or sympathy, my heart cries out like this. I'll get to work. Mumbling to myself with unsteady feet, I locked myself in the study. That night, half conscious, I set outside into the darkness like a sleepwalker. And that is where we are going to end today's episode. Right here. Next time we'll pick up with Kanon. What a surprise, right? So, hope you guys are enjoying. Thank you very much for watching, as always. And I'll see you all next time.